So this is an Acer Aspire One Model D250. I came across this tiny 10-inch netbook in a pile of scrap laptops, and since I never had a netbook myself, I was intrigued by its size, and I immediately thought, what can you even do with a machine like this? Some of the features really made me chuckle, and even though I'm aware that trackpads were smaller back in the day, this thing measures 5 by 5 centimeters. The screen is a 10.1-inch LED backlit LCD. Now, even though this thing was released around 2008, the stickers on the palm rest suggested that it was designed for Windows XP, and that Intel Atom sticker had told me that this thing was no powerhouse. And even though at a first glance this thing looks like a piece of shit cheap laptop, which it was, looking more closely at its exterior, I was able to find some redeeming qualities. For example, this thing has a fairly respectable set of I/O ports. On the right-hand side, there's a full-sized SD card reader, as well as a couple of USB 2.0 ports, and a power jack. On the left-hand side, there's a LAN port, a full-size VGA out, USB 1, and audio in and out. I mean, that's better than many modern laptops. It's even better when I turned the computer over, I was happy to see some expansion bays. This was truly a throwback to a bygone age of user upgradability. Starting from the right, there's a place to install a 3G network card. In the middle, we have a single RAM slot, and currently this thing has 1 gig of RAM installed. And to the left of that is a hard drive bay. This thing has a 120 gig standard SATA hard drive installed. So yeah, given how compact, tiny, and cheap this thing is, I'm truly amazed of the expandability of this netbook. This thing retailed for around $400 at a brief period of time when this class of computers made sense. Before tablet computing went mainstream, every major manufacturer had a thin, ultra-portable laptop in their portfolio. The closest thing I have is an 11-inch MacBook Air, and that thing kind of signaled a turning point at which real laptops with more powerful processors could also be extremely thin and light. Comparing it to the MacBook Air, you can really see how chunky the Aspire One looks. So after that, it was time to plug this thing in and to see whether or not it works. Before even turning it on, I could see just how glossy that display is. So I apologize for all the glare. Upon turning it on, I could see that the previous owner didn't erase the hard drive, so the thing booted right into XP. I considered wiping the hard drive and reinstalling Windows, but upon looking online, I couldn't really find the recovery media for this particular model. And since the computer was working fine, I just decided to clean up this installation a little and proceed with the testing. First thing, of course, was changing the wallpaper to something more appropriate. Let me know in the comments which Windows XP wallpaper was your favorite. Vortex Space was my favorite when I was a teenager. After settling on a wallpaper and playing solitaire, I started thinking about what could I do with this machine. I wanted to connect my external hard drive because that thing has a ton of games and TV shows I can try, but since it was formatted as exFAT, the computer couldn't recognize it. So I've installed an update which enables Windows XP to read exFAT drives. So one thing I certainly did with my laptop back in the day was watching legitimately downloaded TV shows and movies. So I tried watching The Sopranos, and there were a couple of things I noticed right away. First of all, the screen. You would think that the biggest downside of the screen would be the size, but it's actually the viewing angles and the glare which makes this thing barely usable. The second thing is the sound. So yeah, the speakers suck ass. Now for me that isn't really a deal breaker because you can always plug in some headphones, but still you can barely make out the gabagool.
No, I was taking the gabagool and shit out of the fridge.
So I don't think this thing does a good job as a media player, but who knows, perhaps it's gonna do better at gaming. So I knew this thing probably wouldn't run Crysis, although we're certainly going to try installing it later on. But for the time, I wanted to try some less demanding earlier titles, because I thought this machine had a better chance of running those. And I mean, why not? I'm a big fan of early 2000 gaming, so I started by installing HalfLife. I've also installed Fraps so that we could monitor the FPS. Now, even though the game ran fine, there was another issue I've noticed before, but at this point it became very apparent. So this is a 16 by 10 display running at 1024 by 600 resolution. But the majority of these older games run at 800 by 600, so by default the image is stretched. Now there's usually an option in the display menu that enables or disables stretching, but when I tried fiddling with the settings, the computer would just crash. So for the entirety of the testing period, I was left with this horribly scaled image. And of course I ended up plugging in an external mouse because the trackpad is amusingly awful. So the fact that this thing ran fine isn't really a huge accomplishment, because at the point when this computer was introduced, Half-Life was already like 10 years old. But still, I was happy and slightly encouraged by this, so I moved on to a strategy game. Stronghold Crusader is a game from 2002, and not surprisingly it also ran pretty well. This thing has Intel GMA 950 integrated graphics with up to 224 megs shared memory, so it handles these early 2D RTS games pretty well. Case in point, I also tried StarCraft, which ran without issues. So I wanted to test some games that would really push the graphics capabilities of this laptop. But one of the biggest compromises this thing did in 2008 was the exclusion of a DVD drive. And since the majority of my PC games collection was on physical media, I wanted to have a way to load those games up on this computer. So I went digging and I found the drivers for my external Apple USB super drive. So I used that to load and test some more advanced DVD titles. Starting of course with a childhood classic, Unreal Tournament 2004. I know from experience that this is a pretty well optimized game which runs on the majority of systems I have. So I was kind of surprised to see how sucky the performance was. The FPS unfortunately dipped into single digits quite often, and even after changing all the settings to low, the performance didn't really improve any. I was still able to nail a couple of headshots though. So if I had bought this computer back in 2008, I guess I would be slightly disappointed that it can't even do a decent job running this 4-year-old game. But of course this isn't what this computer was meant to run. But still, I kept pushing, so I wanted to give a racing game a shot, and I've settled on Flatout, which is also a game from 2004. So the game fortunately installed without issues, and upon starting it up, I could see that the intro FMV was locked to 25 frames per second. But holy crap, when I got to the main menu, it immediately started dropping into the single digits. And upon starting the race up, I mean, if this was my only computer back in the day, I guess I would have learned to play it like that. This really does bring back some weird, unsettling memories. And even though I really appreciate all the nostalgia that these computers can bring back, I'm not really sure what to think of this. I mean, hey, the music's awesome, and for some reason I kind of enjoy torturing this computer, so I moved on to some other contemporary titles, because I wanted to see how bad they would run on this. And this is the point at which I kind of hit the wall. And this is something I dealt with all the time as a kid, trying to install various games on my computer. Bad performance, crashes, compatibility, those are all kind of par for the course when it comes to XP gaming. So I tried installing Call of Duty 2, but I've got this unrecoverable DirectX error. I've tried reinstalling both the game and the DirectX, but the message wouldn't go away. I suspect it's a graphics issue. So then I moved on to GTA San Andreas, and at first the game also wouldn't install. It would give me this catastrophic failure error, but then after a couple of tries it just randomly finished the installation with no issues. So I got to the main menu and tried starting a new game, but it would immediately crash before getting in game. And that triggered a core childhood memory. I seem to remember getting the same error when I was like 12. So since this happened when starting a new game, I've imported a save file to see whether or not it would get in game that way. But nope, it would still crash. So the next reasonable step was, of course, running Crysis. I mean, I knew it wouldn't run, but the curiosity got the best of me. And surprisingly, the game installed fine. No errors or nothing. But upon trying to start the game up, I got the unsupported video card message. Now, I'm used to seeing this message even on the machines that are perfectly capable and run Crysis just fine. So I pressed OK and anxiously awaited what was gonna happen. So yeah, just a black screen and that's it. So I've tried installing all the available patches, but unfortunately the game still wouldn't load, which wasn't a huge surprise. So I thought, okay, what else would you possibly want to do with this thing back in the day? I don't know, Skype? So I've tested the webcam on this thing and the results were absolutely fantastic. At some point I've also tried plugging in a VGA display because I got tired of looking at that 10-inch thing. One thing I also enjoy testing with all computers is a way of hooking up my guitar to them, but I've never actually tried any Windows XP guitar software. And I kid you not, I went through like 6 virtual guitar amps on this thing. Now, I don't want to sound like an Apple fanboy, but whenever I've tried hooking my guitar up to any old Mac capable of running GarageBand, it all just worked. With these ones, holy crap. They either wouldn't recognize my guitar interface, or if they did, they wouldn't output any sound, or the application itself was glitchy as heck. So I've resorted to using Audacity, which is an application I'm familiar with, although I've never used it to record my guitar. And even though I was happy to get any sound out of this, it's not a proper virtual amp. So overall, what do I think about this computer? Well, as a collector, I appreciate its existence. I'm happy to have this quirky little thing in my collection. As far as usability goes, I don't know, man. I don't think these netbooks and ultra portables aged very well. I guess that for a brief period in history, they did have their place in the marketplace. But nowadays, you can get a full spec monster laptop from the late 2000s for super cheap. So if you want a portable XP machine to play around with, I don't think this Aspire cuts the mustard. But I still enjoy playing with these things, even with all of their limitations. So if you like exploring old junk, you might want to consider subscribing to my channel. I do overviews of the old tech, restorations, repairs, and all sorts of different things. And I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for watching.